and welcome. You're watching NDTV World. Let's get you our top story, and this is in regard to after suspending the Indus Waters Treaty with Pakistan, the Modi government is expected to take major steps forward, completing the stalled hydroelectric projects. A major meeting is likely to be held this week with Home Minister Amit Shah along with Water Resources Minister C.R. Patil, Power Minister Manohar Lal Khattar as well as Agriculture Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan and senior officials from all related ministries. Since the suspension of the Indus Waters Treaty, two meetings have already taken place between Home Minister Amit Shah as well as Water Resources Minister C.R. Patil and top officials of the ministry. India aims to accelerate the stalled hydroelectric project in Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan's Foreign Office has said, of course, in this particular regard, that they would specifically raise the issue of India's move to suspend the Indus Water Treaty, calling it an illegal action that endangers peace and security in the region. My colleague Shiv Arur has the details.
Those scoffing at India's move, suspending the Indus Water Treaty, those who think it's just smoke and mirrors, well, India's already issued notice under Article 12 of the IWT for modification of this treaty. And therefore, if the Tulbul navigation project and other infrastructural moves on the Wular Lake and beyond come into effect, it could be the beginning of the end of Pakistan's uninterrupted water privileges courtesy India. And remember, this isn't just a diversion. This is about ending the veto that Pakistan has taken for granted for way too long while perpetrating terror against India.
And Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has met his Japanese counterpart, General Nakatani, for wide-ranging talks this is against the backdrop of rising tensions between India and Pakistan over the Pahalgam terror attack and China's persistent muscle flexing in the South China Sea. The Defence Ministry said that Indian and Japanese sides will exchange views and ideas on the current regional and international security situation. The two sides deliberating on ways to boost the Indian and Japanese defence industrial cooperation.
I would like to thank the government of Japan for their strong expression of solidarity with India in the wake of the Pahalgam terrorist attack. Excellency, I take this opportunity to compliment you for your immense contribution in deepening of the Indo-Japan defence relations. You had earlier laid foundations for a strong bilateral defence partnership by concluding defence equipment and technical cooperation.
A missile attack on Tel Aviv's international airport has forced the Air India flight operations from Delhi to Tel Aviv to divert. In fact, one of the flights was diverted to Abu Dhabi in the UAE and will be returning to Delhi from there. In view of the incident, the Tata Group Airlines has suspended services to and from the Israeli city till Tuesday. Do note that Air India is the only Indian airlines that operates flights between New Delhi and Israel. According to international media reports, a ballistic missile launched by Yemen-based Houthi militia hit this is the international airport, the busiest airport in Israel, leaving a few people injured. The Houthis, while claiming responsibility for the attack, also reportedly warned airlines that the airport was not safe for travel. As you know, the Houthis have been launching attacks against Israel over the latter's military offensive in Gaza. Here's what Israel's Prime Minister had to say.
אנחנו פועלים נגדם. פעלנו בעבר, נפעל גם בעתיד, אני לא יכול לפרט את כל הדברים. ארצות הברית גם בתיאום איתנו פועלת גם נגדם. זה לא זבנג וגמרנו, אבל יהיו זבנגים.
Vishal joining us to get us more on this. Vishal, not one and done, but a sevenfold attack is what Netanyahu is warning of.
Yeah, that is correct. And Israel does possess some weapons in its arsenal that can actually execute those sevenfold attacks. But what remains to be seen is how Houthis will continue with these attacks, because they have vowed that they will continue to attack the Ben Gurion airport, which is the busiest and the largest airport in Israel. The projectile landed just meters away from the main airport and created a 25 feet deep crater. So you can imagine the level of magnitude that the weapon possesses and the damage it could have done. Luckily that did not happen. People got injured, but the attack was largely contained. Also, another fact of the story is that how did Houthis manage to penetrate the air shield of Israel, which Israelis say that it's almost impenetrable. So the technology that they possess that seems to have overcome Israelis on some occasions in the last 1 year. So that will also be looked at.
Right, and this meanwhile, Iran unveiled a new solid-fueled ballistic missile which it claims can bypass the United States anti-ballistic defense system amid ongoing nuclear talks with the United States. The Qasim Basir ballistic missile is said to have a 1,200-kilometer range and can identify and strike a designated target with pinpoint accuracy. This comes after a recent missile attack by Yemen's Houthi on Israel's airport, the country's biggest international airport. Let's listen in to what the Iranian defense minister had to say.
اگر به ما حمله بشه، جنگی به ما تحمیل بشه، ما با قدرت پاسخ خواهیم داد. ما منافع اونا رو، پایگاه‌های اونا رو مورد حمله قرار خواهیم داد و در این راستا هیچ ملاحظه‌ای و هیچ محدودیتی قائل نیستیم. ما با کشورهای همسایه هیچ گونه خصومتی نداریم، برادران ما هستند، اما پایگاه‌های آمریکایی اهداف ما هستند.
United States President Donald Trump has gone on to say that the United States was meeting with many countries, including China, on trade deals, and his main priority with China was to secure a fair trade deal. Now, Trump told reporters aboard the Air Force One that he had no plans to speak with the Chinese President Xi Jinping this week, but the United States officials were speaking with Chinese officials on a variety of things. A probe by the Israel Defense Forces revealed that a squad of Israeli soldiers stationed near the border with the Gaza Strip had abandoned civilians who were sheltering on this beach, the Zikim beach, as Hamas invaded the area during the militant group's unprecedented attack which took place in 2023. The troops from the brigade's 51st Battalion withdrew from the Zikim beach without adequately engaging with the militants of Hamas who arrived by speedboat. That led to the killing of 17 civilians in the area. Now, Russia said on Sunday that its forces had struck Ukrainian military targets in multiple directions over the past 24 hours, while Ukraine reported 253 battles on the front lines in the past day. In its daily report, the Russian Defense Ministry announced that its forces launched offensives in the directions of Kharkiv, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, as well as Kherson, while Russian forces have targeted military airfield infrastructure, defense enterprises, workshops producing drones, drone storage sites, and temporary deployment points of the Ukrainian forces across 158 locations to be precise, according to the report. The air defense system of Russia shot down 146 Ukrainian drones over the past 24 hours, is what the ministry went on to add. On the same day, the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces reported 253 combat clashes with Russian forces on the front lines over the past day, including 23 battles in Russia's Kursk region. Donald Trump has announced on his social media platform Truth a 100% tariff on all movies produced in foreign lands. In his post, he went on to claim that they have authorized the Department of Commerce and the United States Trade Representative to immediately begin instituting such a tariff, although he gave no details on how this is going to go ahead and get implemented. The film industry has already been feeling the effects of tariffs as China in April responded to the announcements by reducing the quota of American movies allowed into that country. Now, China is the world's second largest film market that comes in after the United States, although in recent years, domestic offerings have outshone Hollywood imports. However, the tariffs would deal a significant blow when it comes to Western studios, especially Walt Disney Company, Paramount Global, and we're also talking about Warner Brothers, as well as others that still are struggling to rebound after the pandemic.
Yeah, the movie tariffs, what they've done is other nations have been stealing the movies, the movie-making capabilities from the United States. And I said to a couple of people, what do you think? I've done some very strong research over the last week, and we're making very few movies now. Hollywood is being destroyed. Now, you have an incompetent, grossly incompetent governor that allowed that to happen. So I'm not just blaming other nations, but other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movie industry. And I'm saying, if they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, then we should have a tariff on movies that come in. And not only that, governments are actually giving big money. I mean, they're supporting them financially. So that's sort of a threat to our country in a sense. And it's been a very popular thing. I can tell you one thing, movie makers love it.
We know the US President Donald Trump, what he has said, but it is still not clear how much tariff would be imposed, and also films are intellectual property, they are not goods, so they represent a kind of service that is not currently subject to tariffs. So that is a point that we have to wait for. What are these tariffs and how will they be imposed? Now let's go to the second thing, that is Indian language films have been doing amazingly well here in USA. When it comes to revenue, when it comes to box office collection, it has been growing leaps and bounds. Let me get you some numbers. You know, before the pandemic, the Indian films like a Bahubali typically earned around 8 million in US. However, the post-pandemic, it has just increased, grossing around 15 million or 20 million. You know, I'm talking about Pathan, Jawan, Donkey. These films have gone up to 20 million. They have earned $20 million. So we know that Indian films have been doing great, and also South Indian films. I spoke to a few people here. I'm in California right now, and California has a maximum Indian population in USA thanks to Silicon Valley and the opportunities here. And people have said that we can go and watch an Indian film now in any theatre close to our house, because there are so many screens that are screening because of the demand. Of course, people want to watch Indian films and they are enjoying Indian films, from RRR to Kalki. All these films have making great business. The recent film in 2024, Kill, which was produced by Guneet Monga and Karan Johar, it was the first Indian film to get the maximum number of screens, more than 1,000 plus screens. So yeah, the business of Indian film industry has been growing here in USA. We have seen that, but we have to right now wait and watch what are the tariffs, what tariffs is he talking about, and how will they be amplified.
Now, weighing in on the possibility of a third term in the White House, United States President Donald Trump has cleared the air by indicating that he would leave the office after completing this second term without trying to extend that stay, while acknowledging the constitutional constraints of seeking a third term in office. The conclusion of talks on the proposed free trade agreement between India and the United Kingdom, along with two other pacts, may take some more time, on both sides continuing to negotiate unresolved issues.
Right, what we're hearing on the India-UK FTA talks, the free trade agreement talks, is the fact that the final closure will still take time. Now, why this is important is because when Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal visited Europe, he went to 3 cities. He started off at London. He went there on April 29th. He then moved to Oslo and Brussels, and he then returned to London. So the first time he was in London, there was the expectation that the India-UK FTA closure would be announced. There was a press conference also announced, but that was cancelled last moment. Then Piyush Goyal, at the end of his Europe tour, again visited London in hopes of being able to announce the India-UK FTA conclusion of negotiations. However, again on May 2nd, that wasn't made possible. Since then, Commerce Minister Goyal has returned to India, and there is no sort of particular timeline on when the India-UK FTA could see its closure. What we're also seeing is the fact that there are 4 to 5 key issues that are currently still not resolved and might need resolution. The first one could be the sunset clause that is part of the bilateral investment treaty. That is something that is being discussed currently. The second could be UK's new carbon tax, and the third also data localization remains a big one.
And Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said that he'll be meeting with US President Donald Trump in Washington, and that meeting is coming up on Tuesday. Their first face-to-face encounter since he won an election, in part because of an anti-Trump message. This, as the US President Donald Trump says, it's highly unlikely that he would resort to military force to annex Canada, but is adamant that the border separating it from the United States is an artificial line that prevents the two territories from forming a beautiful country.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney will be travelling to the US to meet President Donald Trump in the White House on Tuesday. This will be the first in-person meeting between the two leaders in the backdrop of the punishing tariffs imposed by the Trump administration, as well as the annexation threats against Canada. The two leaders have had 2 telephonic conversations in the last 1 month. The first conversation happened on the 28th of March, where President Donald Trump made a reference to the 51st state, a rhetoric that he has continued with on annexing Canada. The second conversation that happened after Mark Carney won a full term as Prime Minister on Tuesday, which is the 29th of April, no reference was made to Canada becoming the 51st state of the US. But this threat continues, and in view of this, as well as the tariffs that have been imposed against Canada, which can derail its economy, will also come up for discussions. This will be front and center of the discussions as the two sides begin working on negotiating an agreement, which is an economic and security agreement between the two sides. It is not clear as to whether Mark Carney will first ask the US administration to lift the tariffs before the negotiations start, but Tuesday is going to reveal much on the manner in which Mark Carney will take on President Trump, and this is important because he has been voted in part largely over the sentiment that he is the best person to take on President Trump.
In other news, Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese gave his first statement on Monday after winning re-elections on Saturday. He has arrived back in the capital, Canberra, after his centre-left Labour Party won an emphatic victory in the country's general elections. As vote counting continued, the government was on track to win at least 85 seats in the 150-seat House of Representatives, the lower chamber where parties need a majority to form an administration. Labour held 78 seats in the previous parliament, and gaining seats in a second term is rare as far as politics go in Australia.
We are deeply humbled by the result on Saturday, and we don't take a second of it for granted. The hard work will continue today. My government has been an orderly government. We have worked hard. We've had effective ministers, but also an effective caucus. And we've engaged in a way that's clear, that's forward-looking, that made not just a case that we had been a good government in getting inflation down, wages up, interest rates starting to fall, employment growing. We also had an effective offer going forward as well that resonated with people, that we developed in consultation with people.
Now, the area where Elon Musk's SpaceX company operates on the southern tip of Texas is to officially become a city called Star Base. Residents approved incorporating a patch of land as a new municipality in an election as far as Saturday goes. Most of the 283 eligible voters are employees of SpaceX. The new city covers about 3.9 square feet that has, was sparsely populated before SpaceX even began buying land in the area dating back to 2012. 9 people died and 1 is missing in a boat capsized. This is an accident that took place in Changi. This is southeast of China on Sunday afternoon, according to local authorities. 4 boats capsized in this sudden strong winds and plunging about 84 individuals into the water. So far, 9 people have died and 70 are being treated in non-life-threatening conditions, and 4 people are uninjured, according to local rescue headquarters. The search continues for the last missing person, and authorities have deployed nearly 500 emergency responders, including police, firefighters, as well as medical personnel involved in the rescue operations to coordinate the rescue efforts. And with that, we're slipping to a very short break. Back with a whole lot more on the NDTV World Report. Stay with us. Now, US President Donald Trump said that he would extend the June 19 deadline for China-based ByteDance, and this is for the United States assets of TikTok, the short video app used by 170 million Americans. If no deal has been reached by then, this is what Donald Trump has gone on to say, that he'd like to see it done. This is what he told the NBC News program, meeting the press with Kristen Welker in an interview that was taped on Friday at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach, Florida, that is airing across the United States. When Greg Abel succeeds Warren Buffett at the helm of the Berkshire Hathaway at the end of this year. He's expected to preserve the culture. This is even if he does not match the star power of his legendary boss. Now, Abel is expected by investors and analysts to uphold about 1.18 trillion US dollars. This is the track record of investing as far as in companies for the long haul is concerned, and this also includes payments to shareholders. And Harry Kane can finally celebrate his first career title after Bayern Munich became Bundesliga champion with a little help from Freiburg. On Sunday, Freiburg drew with second placer Bayer Leverkusen 2-2 to leave Bayern an unassailable 8 points clear of the 2024 champion with 2 rounds of the German league remaining. The 31-year-old Kane had never won a title in a career of runner-up finishes and defeats in finals, with this is of course him as well as others leading this some to speak of a curse against a player considered one of the world's best forwards. Kane's arrival as Bayern's record signing in 2023 was followed by the club's first trophy-less season since 2012. The first time Oscar Piastri arrived at the Miami Grand Prix as a Formula One driver. He was in the slowest car in the field and only narrowly avoided the finishing last. Fast forward 2 years and Piastri and McLaren Racing have come full circle. Piastri maintained his advantage in the F1 Championship fight by winning at Miami on Sunday for his 4th win through 6 races this season. He has won 3 consecutive F1 races for McLaren Racing, where he and teammate Lando Norris are trying to dethrone 4-time defending champion Max Verstappen of Red Bull. McLaren has won Miami the last 2 years, with Norris on top last year for his first career F1 victory last season. Now, jury selection is set to begin in New York City in the blockbuster trial of the music mogul D.D. Combs, who dramatically fell from grace following his incarceration on charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. Combs, 55 years of age, has been awaiting this day in court since last year on accusations of leading a crime ring that prosecutors say coerced victims into drug-fueled sex parties using threats as well as violence. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges, insisting that any sex acts were consensual. And at a recent hearing, his attorney offered a preview of his team's defense by describing the artist's freewheeling swinger lifestyle. Now, the prosecution said in court that it had offered Combs a plea deal. The specifics were not disclosed, but that he went on to reject. And after marking a mark at the Coachella Music Festival and Paris Fashion Week as well, as Diljit Dosanjh is now set to rule this year's biggest fashion event, the Met Gala. Priyanka Chopra will also be seen at the Met Gala red carpet. This marks her 5th appearance at the annual fashion event. Kiara Advani will be making an appearance for the very first time at the Met Gala, but all eyes will be on Shah Rukh Khan, who's all set to debut in a Sabyasachi creation. And police in Brazil said on Sunday that 2 people have been arrested in connection with an alleged plot to detonate explosives at a free Lady Gaga concert in Rio de Janeiro. The Rio event on Saturday was the biggest show of the pop star's career that attracted an estimated 2.5 million fans to Copacabana Beach and had crowds screaming and dancing along. Now, the Secretary of the Police in Rio said that authorities believe that the suspects sought to target the LGBTQ community in particular. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of NDTV World Report. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place.